everybody, this is Krista from Adventures in Metaphysics, and today I thought it would be fun to jump on the tag created by Silvain, 7 decks for deadly sins. I've had a lot of fun watching everyone's videos on these. I can't tell you how many of these that I've watched, but I really love how everyone's come up with some really different interpretations for each of the deadly sins. So what I have here is a bit of a compilation of all of the videos I've watched. I think mainly what I took from was Lisa Papez's video and Boho Tarot. I really liked how they interpreted the prompts. So without further ado, let's show off the decks. Okay, so the first one we're gonna look at is Greed. And the interpretation I saw going around was a deck you won't share with anyone. Now, I can't say I truly have a deck that I won't share with anyone. At work, we have what we call Fun Fridays, where Rachel and I and a few other of our friends that are interested in tarot will bring a bunch of our decks along and we'll do readings for each other and pass around our decks for each other to look at because we tend to have really different deck styles, so it's so fun to see what everyone has. So pretty much all of my decks, I'm okay with them touching. I really don't usually have a problem with that. So the way I interpreted this prompt was, is there a deck that I would be really upset if, say, like the meanest person on the whole world touched it and used it? And for me, that is my Mons Tarot by Joanna Nelson, and I have it in this cute teal and purple bag that I made. But this deck is a bit newer to my collection, but it's one I instantly fell in love with. I feel like I've already mentioned it in so many of my posts on Instagram so far, and I know certainly in the first video we posted, but this is one I just felt so instantly connected to that I knew this, if anything ever happened to it, or it just felt like it got some really bad energy on it, I would be really, really upset about it. So this is the one I chose for Greed. So the next one we have is Wrath, and the prompt for this one is a deck that you're angry with. Now, I want to preface this one by saying that the reason I'm angry with the deck I'm about to show you is by my own fault entirely. The deck is beautiful and the creator is wonderful. It's entirely my own fault why I'm angry about it. So my one for Wrath is the Stitcher's Oracle. Now, this deck is absolutely beautiful. These are the backs. And it is a deck for anyone who is interested in knitting, sewing, crocheting. It has all sorts of imagery around those hobbies. So, since I really enjoy to crochet, I thought this would be the perfect deck. And both my older sister and I have been looking at it. She has a friend who has it, and the art is just beautiful. And so when it came back in stock, I pretty much impulse bought it right away without looking much into it because I knew I loved the artwork. But the reason I'm angry with this deck is because it doesn't come with a guidebook that tells you what each of the pictures are, and I really don't know a lot of this imagery. I'm decently new to crochet still, and I don't really sew, I don't knit, and so a lot of these pictures are really lost on me. The guidebook, or the little booklet that is included, is really interesting because the creator's purpose in doing that is to leave your interpretations all up to your intuition, which I think is a fantastic idea. And for someone who knows a lot more about knitting or sewing and crocheting is gonna get a lot out of this deck, I think. But for someone like me who really doesn't know much about all the tools, the different stitches, it just got pretty lost on me. But luckily, I have an older sister who is very, very talented at knitting, so I think this is gonna find a really good home with her, which I'm sad because I do really love this artwork, but I think she's really gonna like this one too and be able to get a lot more out of it than I was. So that is my deck for Wrath. Next on our list, we have Envy, which is a deck you wanted because others had it. And for me, that is the Memento Mori Oracle by Claire Goodchild. So I am a huge fan of the podcast, The Haunted Housewives. If you're not listening, you have to give it a try. They are so funny. It's Carly and Tara. The Village Tarot Witch on Instagram, and the Optimist Oracle. And on their show, oh my gosh, that's too many cards to hold. On their show, they perform mediumship using their cards, which I think is just the most interesting thing in the world. And this is the deck that they use a lot of the time. So it's one that I was already looking at beforehand. I think I probably heard about it on another podcast that I love, the Wildly Tarot podcast. But I just hadn't really bit the bullet. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like the imagery. But then I binged every episode of The Haunted Housewives, and I was like, you know what? I absolutely need this deck. But I don't regret it at all. I've tried using it in a similar way that they do, and it works wonderfully. But it also works really great just to use as a regular oracle. And I'm really excited because I do think that Claire Goodchild is coming out with another expansion pack. I believe the final one. So I'm definitely watching out for that pre-order. But this is my deck for Envy. All right, next we have Lust, which is a deck that you bought for aesthetic reasons only. And this one took me a while to think of because I would really like to think that I don't have any decks just because they're pretty. But as I was sorting through my tarot decks, I realized I was wrong. So my deck for Lust is the Anecdote Tarot. And the reason I say I have this one just because it's pretty is because the artwork of this deck is based on the music put out by a harpist. It's someone who plays the harp. I'm not even sure what the title is, see? But I don't even remember the name. I've never heard the music before. I just loved the paintings used for these cards. And they're huge cards, you can see. I'm having a little bit of trouble holding them. So I can't say that it's super usable is not the right word, but it is a bit cumbersome because of the size of the cards, but you get to see the images really well. And I do still enjoy to use it every once in a while, and it's one I find I just can't let go of because it's just so dang pretty. I mean, look at these images. And the guidebook is good as well, but some of it, again, is lost on me because it'll quote song lyrics and it seems to relate the card meetings to the different songs put out by this musician, which I still haven't even taken the time to listen to, and I should. I know I should if I'm gonna keep this deck, but it is such a beautiful deck. So this is my deck for Lust, and it's the Anecdote Tarot. So the next category is Gluttony, and this one I'm cheating on a little bit because I found two interpretations and I really liked both and instantly thought of a deck for both. So we're gonna do both prompts for this one. But the first one is a deck that you have multiple copies of. And I don't have officially multiple copies yet, but I do have the first edition Northern Animal Tarot. And I loved it so much that I backed the second edition on Kickstarter. So I believe in a few weeks, I think shipping is happening soon at this point, I will have two copies, two different editions, but still two copies of this deck in my collection. And I'm so interested to see if I'm still gonna remain really attached to this first edition, even though the cardstock will be different, the colors will be much brighter in the second edition, which is usually something that's really important to me. I love having colors in my deck. but I am very attached to this one, so I'll be interested to see if I kind of flip to the second edition or stay stuck on this one. So the second interpretation I saw is a deck I didn't want but bought anyway. And I knew instantly which one this was for me, and it is the Crow Tarot. So I was seeing this one everywhere. Rachel has it, I'm pretty sure. And every time I saw it, I was like, there's no way. It's kind of creepy, it's a bit dark and spooky, and that is just not my thing. But I picked it up on Amazon maybe around 6 months ago at this point, because I had 3 crows that I feel like were following me everywhere. They were at my old house where I used to live, and they would always be on my front lawn, and Rachel saw them once too when she came to cat sit for Stevie. And then when we were moving to this new house, before we moved and we were just coming to do work, every time I drove here, I would see these 3 crows, maybe not the same exact ones, but still a group of 3 crows always somewhere along my way from that house to this house. So it was just a really, really interesting experience I had. And so after that, I just decided, you know, I need some kind of deck with crows, and what better than the Crow Tarot? I just need to give it a chance. And I really, really fell in love with this deck. I don't think I'm as intimidated by it now that I have it. It's not as dark, not as spooky as I thought it was. And I just really love the collage style of it. So it's definitely one that I didn't want. I didn't want it at all. But now that I have it, I'm really, really glad that I do. So that is the Crow Tarot. So next we have Pride. And I personally interpreted this one to mean a deck that I have that I get really, really excited to show others who I think might not know about it, to try and convince them to buy it too. So that for me is my little Kickstarter box from Holly Audley from her latest Kickstarter, which is just so cute. And it holds the teeny tiny tarot and the mini divvy. Now, what I really, really like about these and why I like to talk about them so much, besides just loving the artwork and loving what Holly does, is that there was an effort to make them really, really affordable. I'm going to show the teeny tiny tarot because in my top 10 decks video, I showed the mini divvy already. So these are all really, really affordable, which I really like. They're pretty accessible. So this is one that if I'm gonna show off some of my decks in the sense of what I usually do in the you should have this too, it's gonna be these decks because none of them are really, really, you know, pushing you over an edge money-wise. I think they're around $20 each. So that is the Teeny Tiny Tarot and the Mini Divvy by Holly Audley. So last but not least, we have Sloth, which is a deck you use when you're feeling lazy. And for me, that is the Marigold Mornings affirmation cards. So I really like these affirmation cards in particular because, for lack of a better word, they don't feel cheesy to me, like a lot of the other ones I've tried. I feel like when I think of affirmations, I get really stuck because of that advice I feel like we all get to look at yourself in the mirror and say 5 good things about yourself every morning, which if that works for you, that is fantastic, but it doesn't work for me. I can't take myself, I've tried, I can't take myself seriously. And so a lot of other affirmation decks I've tried feel that way, so they haven't worked. But these I feel like have a little bit more to them and just, again, don't feel very cheesy to me. I call this my before coffee deck because that's when I pull it. I keep it right behind my coffee machine because I got the poker, or it might be called the bridge size. So it's the smaller one, so it fits right behind my coffee machine. And I pull a card every single morning while my coffee is brewing. And it's just nice to not have to think about it, which is never gonna happen at that hour of the morning. You just read your message and go along with your day, which I really, really enjoy. And also, I mean, how cute are these illustrations? Not to mention the backs of these cards are also beautiful. They're very like 70s yellow with these really pretty marigolds, which I love. So that is my deck for Sloth. All right, I hope you all enjoyed seeing my 7 decks for Deadly Sins. I'll be sure to link below Silvain's original video, as well as Rachel and I's Instagram page, and I actually just opened up an Etsy shop where you can purchase for yourself some of the crochet tarot bags or tarot mats that I make. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week, and we will see you again soon.